You're marching through morning mist in the summer of 1462, part of the greatest army the world has ever seen. You've watched Constantinople's walls crumble. You've seen empires kneel. This should be easy. A minor prince in a backwater province, barely worth the Sultan's attention. Then the wind shifts, and you smell it. Not just death, something else. Something that makes your stomach turn before your mind understands why. The column ahead has stopped moving. Scouts are returning, and you've never seen that expression on a veteran's face before. As you crest the hill overlooking Targovik, you see what broke them. A forest, but the trees are breathing. 20,000 human beings suspended in the air on wooden stakes, arranged in perfect geometric rows stretching to the horizon. Some have been dead for weeks, their bodies black and bloated in the summer heat. Others are still moving, still aware. Your commander, a man who has seen everything war can offer, turns his horse without a word. And behind you, Sultan Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople, the terror of Europe, takes one look at this nightmare made real and orders his entire army to retreat. One man did this, not in madness, but with surgical precision. And by the time you understand why, you'll realize the real horror wasn't what he did to bodies. It was what he did to minds. Before we step into that darkness together, I'd love to know, where in the world are you watching this from? It amazes me that a story from medieval Wallachia can reach someone reading this right now, wherever you are. Drop a comment. Let's see how far this reaches. Here's what they don't teach you about Vlad III of Wallachia: the impalement, the violence, the calculated cruelty that would echo through 5 centuries and transform him into the fictional Dracula. None of it was random. It was a system. And to understand the system, you have to understand what breaks a child so completely that he becomes capable of engineering horror as military strategy. The year is 1442. Vlad is 11 years old. His father, Vlad II Dracula, Vlad the Dragon, has just made a deal with Sultan Murad II of the Ottoman Empire. The terms are simple. Dracula keeps his throne in Wallachia. In exchange, he hands over his 2 youngest sons as hostages, living insurance, breathing collateral to guarantee his loyalty. Young Vlad and his brother Radu are torn from their home and delivered to the Ottoman court at Adrianople. They're given fine clothes, education, military training. On parchment, it looks like privilege. In reality, it's a master class in psychological warfare. For 6 years, from age 11 to 17, Vlad watches the Ottomans perfect the art of empire. He studies how they use fear as infrastructure. He witnesses public executions designed not just to punish, but to traumatize entire populations into paralysis. He learns that terror, when applied with precision, is more efficient than any army, and he learns he is completely powerless. His younger brother Radu adapts, even befriends the Sultan's son, Mehmed. But Vlad refuses to bend. Ottoman court records mention frequent punishments for his defiance. Some accounts suggest beatings, others worse. The exact details dissolved into history. But what crystallized inside him didn't. He developed what modern psychologists might recognize as a trauma response combined with obsessive need for control. But he channeled it. Every punishment he endured, he studied. Every torture technique he witnessed, he memorized. He was building something in his mind, piece by piece, an arsenal that wouldn't require soldiers. In 1448, after 6 years of captivity, Vlad returns to Wallachia. He's 17. 2 months later, his father is assassinated by rival Bojars, the nobility who play all sides, loyal only to their own survival. His older brother Mircea is buried alive. Vlad is alone, surrounded by enemies, backed by no one. He doesn't just want revenge, he wants to remake the world in the image of his trauma. But first, he has to wait. For 6 more years, Vlad lives in exile, studying military tactics, political maneuvering. And the one lesson the Ottomans taught him better than anything else, how to make fear do the work of armies. In 1456, with Hungarian backing, he seizes the Wallachian throne. And the world is about to learn what happens when a broken child becomes a calculating adult with absolute power. His coronation feast should have been a celebration. Instead, it became a blueprint. Vlad invites the Bojar families, the same nobility who orchestrated his father's murder and buried his brother alive. Hundreds arrive in their finest clothes, believing they're there to pledge loyalty to the new prince. The hall is decorated. Wine flows. Then Vlad stands and asks a simple question. How many princes of Wallachia have you lived through? The older Bojars answer proudly, 7, 10. Some claim to remember a dozen different rulers. They're bragging about their survival, their political savvy, their ability to outlast any prince foolish enough to sit on that throne. Vlad smiles. Then he gives an order. Every boyard who answered is arrested on the spot. But here's where you see the methodical mind at work. He doesn't execute them. Not yet. He separates them into 2 groups based on age and health. The older ones, the architects of his family's destruction, are impaled immediately outside the palace walls. Not quickly. The stakes are carefully inserted to avoid vital organs. Death comes slowly over hours or days. Their screams provide the soundtrack for what comes next. The younger, stronger Bojars and their families are stripped of their noble clothes and force-marched 50 miles north to the ruins of Ponari Castle. They're given a choice that isn't really a choice. Rebuild the fortress with their bare hands or die. For months, they haul stones up the mountainside. They work until their hands bleed, until their silk robes rot off their bodies, until they collapse from exhaustion. Most die during construction. The survivors are never the same. Vlad has effectively erased the old nobility and replaced them with a new class who owe everything to him and live in absolute terror of disappointing him. This isn't just revenge. It's systematic dismantling of the power structure that made Wallachia weak. But this is still domestic politics. The boyars were Wallachian. What Vlad does next sends shock waves across empires. In 1459, Sultan Mehmed II, yes, the same Mehmed who was Vlad's childhood companion in captivity, sends envoys to Wallachia demanding the annual tribute Vlad's father had agreed to pay. The demand comes with an additional insult. Vlad must present himself personally in Constantinople to renew his oath of vassalage. The envoys arrive, expecting negotiation. What they get is a preview of hell. When they enter Vlad's court and refuse to remove their turbans, a genuine religious custom in Ottoman protocol, Vlad asks them to explain their tradition. They do. Probably relieved, he seems interested rather than offended. Vlad nods thoughtfully. Then he says something that must have frozen their blood. I respect a man who honors his faith so completely. Let me help you honor it forever. He orders his guards to nail the turbans directly to their skulls. Think about the precision of that cruelty. He doesn't kill them. He mutilates them in a way that's both symbolically loaded and medically calculated to ensure they survive the journey back to Constantinople. Their walking messages, their screams echo across the countryside as they flee back to the Sultan. When Mehmed receives his envoys, men he sent in good faith, Now permanently disfigured and driven half-mad by pain, he understands immediately. This isn't the childhood friend he remembers. This is something that took Ottoman lessons in terror and evolved them into something even the Ottomans haven't imagined. War is now inevitable. By early 1462, Vlad has not only refused tribute, but launched raids deep into Ottoman territory. In one brutal campaign, he crosses into Ottoman Bulgaria and, according to his own letter to the Hungarian king, kills over 23,000 people. He keeps a body count, categorizing victims by age and gender. It's not a boast, it's a warning. Mehmed, who conquered Constantinople at age 21, who commands the most powerful military machine on earth, decides to personally handle the Wallachian problem. In spring 1462, he assembles an army estimated between 60,000 and 90,000 men, more than triple Wallachia's entire military-age male population. This isn't an invasion, it's extermination. Vlad has maybe 20,000 to 30,000 men total, many of them peasant conscripts. A conventional battle would be suicide. So he does what he's been planning since childhood. He refuses to give them a conventional battle. As the Ottoman army enters Wallachia, they find nothing. Empty villages, poisoned wells, burned fields. Every source of food and water has been systematically destroyed. Vlad has ordered his own people to abandon their homes and retreat into forests and mountains, taking livestock with them. The Ottoman supply lines stretch longer, and the night raids begin. These aren't skirmishes. Vlad has trained specialized units in guerrilla warfare. Small groups, 50 to 100 men, strike Ottoman camps in darkness, killing sentries, setting fires, disappearing before any organized response forms. They target supply wagons, pack animals, ammunition stores. The goal isn't to defeat the army. It's to make them paranoid, exhausted, demoralized. But the masterpiece comes on the night of June 17, 1462. Vlad learns from captured soldiers that Sultan Mehmed himself is camped near Targovik with his personal guard, the elite Janissaries. This opportunity will never come again. Vlad personally leads about 10,000 men in what history records as the night attack. Under cover of darkness, they infiltrate the massive Ottoman camp with one objective: kill the Sultan. Contemporary accounts describe absolute chaos. Wallachians dressed in captured Ottoman uniforms, speaking enough Turkish to cause confusion, set fire to tents, stampede horses, and specifically target the section where the Sultan's pavilion stands. They come within yards of Mehmed himself. Some historians believe Vlad and the Sultan were briefly in visual contact across the burning camp. But the Janissaries hold, forming a defensive circle around their leader. After hours of close-quarters combat, Vlad realizes he can't break through. He orders retreat. His men vanish back into the night as suddenly as they appeared. Ottoman casualties are relatively light, maybe 2,000 killed, but the psychological damage is catastrophic. The Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, in the middle of his own army, nearly died at the hands of a vastly outnumbered enemy who struck from nowhere and dissolved like smoke. Mehmed's commanders are rattled, his soldiers are exhausted, and they're still weeks from Constantinople, marching through a dead landscape where every shadow might hide an enemy. Then they reach the capital, and they see what Vlad has been preparing for them. No written description can capture what Mehmed's army encountered on the approach to Targovik in late June 1462. But we can try. You've been marching for weeks through scorched earth. You're hungry, exhausted, jumpy from constant night raids. You haven't seen the enemy in days. They've vanished. That should be a good sign. It feels like a trap. As you approach the Wallachian capital, the smell hits first. If you've smelled the dead animal rotting in summer heat, multiply that by thousands. Add the sweet, sick-making odor of decomposing human flesh. It's so thick you can taste it. Then you see the stakes. First 1, then 10, then 100. Then you realize there is no end. They stretch to the horizon in every direction. Contemporary accounts say the field of impaled bodies extended for nearly 2 miles in length and over half a mile in width. Ottoman sources claim 10,000, Wallachian and Hungarian sources claim up to 20,000. The truth is probably between 15,000 and 20,000 impaled bodies. But here's what makes your skin crawl. This wasn't random. The stakes are arranged in precise geometric patterns, concentric circles radiating out from the capital. Height-ordered rows. In some sections, they form star patterns visible from elevated ground. Vlad spent weeks, possibly months, preparing this. He captured Ottoman soldiers and sympathizers from earlier raids and border skirmishes. He kept them alive specifically for this purpose. Some of the bodies have been dead for weeks, rotting in summer heat. Others were impaled more recently, and some, according to multiple sources, are still alive. The Byzantine chronicler Ionikos Chalkoukandils, who interviewed eyewitnesses, wrote that the moaning of the dying could be heard across the entire field. Some have been impaled for days, their bodies slowly consuming themselves, too weak to scream, but still conscious. The Ottoman troops, hardened veterans who have conquered cities and slaughtered countless enemies, begin vomiting. Some refuse to advance. Others start deserting in the night, willing to risk execution rather than continue through this nightmare. And at the center, on the tallest stake of all, is Hamza Pasha, a high-ranking Ottoman commander captured in an earlier skirmish. His body, dressed in the remnants of his military finery, is positioned directly facing the route of the Sultan's approach. A personal message from Vlad to Mehmed. Imagine what I'll do to your best men. Imagine what I'll do to you. Sultan Mehmed II, the man who watched Constantinople's walls crumble under his cannons, who ordered his own massacres, reportedly stops his horse and stares in silence. Different sources record different versions of his response, but the most widely accepted comes from Chalkoukandils. It is not possible to deprive of his country a man who has done such great deeds, who knows how to put his power to such use. This wasn't praise, it was recognition. He was facing something he didn't fully understand, a mind that had taken Ottoman methods and evolved them into something even the Ottomans couldn't match. The military situation was already deteriorating. Supply lines overstretched, scorched earthworking, night raids destroying morale. But the forest of the Impaled was the psychological breaking point. It proved conventional military thinking didn't apply here. Vlad wasn't trying to win battles, he was trying to break minds. Within days, Mehmed orders general retreat. He leaves a contingent under Vlad's younger brother Radu to continue harassing Vlad. But the Sultan himself withdraws with the main army. The most powerful military force in the world invaded a tiny principality with overwhelming numbers and was turned back not by military defeat, but by sheer psychological warfare. Vlad the Impaler had won. But the story doesn't end there, because what comes next reveals the ultimate tragedy. That terror, however effective in the short term, always devours its wielder. You'd think turning back the Ottoman Empire would make Vlad a hero in Christian Europe. In some ways, it did. The Hungarian king and the Pope praised his defense of Christendom, but they didn't understand one crucial thing. Vlad couldn't turn it off. The methods that defeated the Ottomans didn't stop with the Ottomans. By late 1462, he's impaling Wallachian merchants for price gouging, impaling Bojars suspected of disloyalty based on rumors, impaling entire villages for minor infractions. The tool he forged to defeat a superior enemy has become his only tool for everything. His political position deteriorates rapidly. His brother Radu, backed by Ottoman gold, positions himself as the sane alternative. Hungarian support evaporates as Vlad's increasingly erratic behavior alienates his allies. By November 1462, just months after his greatest triumph, Vlad is forced to flee into Hungarian territory. And here's the bitter irony. He's imprisoned by his supposed ally, King Matthias Corvinus of Hungary, on charges that remain murky to this day. He spends 12 years in Hungarian captivity. Not brutal imprisonment like his Ottoman youth, but house arrest in comfortable quarters. He even marries a Hungarian noblewoman and has children. By all accounts, he's a model prisoner. But in 1476, opportunity returns. Wallachia has devolved into chaos under weak rulers. Moldavia's prince, Stephen the Great, helps orchestrate Vlad's return to the throne, backed by Hungarian and Moldavian troops. Vlad reclaims his throne in November 1476. He has maybe 2 months to rule. In December 1476, or January 1477, the exact date lost to history, Vlad is killed in battle against Ottoman forces near Bucharest. The circumstances are murky. Some sources say he was killed by his own men, either through treachery or because they mistook him for an enemy in the chaos. Others say he was overwhelmed by Ottoman soldiers. What's certain is the aftermath. His head is cut off, preserved in honey, and sent to Sultan Mehmed in Constantinople as proof of death. After everything, the terror, the impalement, the psychological warfare, Vlad ends up as a trophy displayed for mockery in the capital of the very empire he fought his entire life. His body was allegedly buried at Snegov Monastery on an island in Romania. Excavations in the 1930s found a tomb, but it was empty. To this day, no one knows where Vlad's actual remains are. In Romania, Vlad is often celebrated as a national hero, a brutal but effective leader who stood against impossible odds and preserved independence. His face appears on tourist merchandise. There are statues. To the rest of the world, especially after Bram Stoker's 1897 novel loosely borrowed his name and history, Vlad became synonymous with vampirism and supernatural evil, which, in a perverse way, lets us off the hook. It's easier to think of him as a monster, something inhuman, than to confront the real horror. Because the real horror is this: everything Vlad did was human, painfully, terrifyingly human.